Yeah.
All right, everyone, please confer and just give me about 5 minutes because I am alternate presiding today. So that means that I have to take cases from other courts. So just give me 5 minutes and then we'll start.
Oh my, you're still watching the show.
All right, if I can see the officer. Yes. Yes. All right, could you stop video? Just for the courtroom. Hi, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Yes, in the audio. Just give me one. If you can come forward, please. All right, Ms. Ferguson, what date do you want to recall this?
I call it on Thursday if you want.
Okay. All right, Mr. Kesey, your attorney, I'm being told, is in Fort Worth.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're gonna have you come back on May 26th.
May 26th.
Yes, so, and Ms. Ferguson, if you can make sure that his attorney is going to be here and it's not still in trial, because if he is, then we won't have Mr. Kesey come in.
I'm sorry, man.
Yes,
I have the date as tomorrow.
it's May 26th, Thursday.
Okay.
Yes, do you have somewhere else you have to be?
I have to cancel my experiment. I am a biologist.
I'm sorry, your what?
My experiment.
Oh, what's your experiment?
I'm a biologist. I work for, I'm a contractor for the federal government, trying to save soldiers' lives in the battlefield. So
Okay, so when is your experiment?
I have experiment all week, but I can work around it.
Well, no, I mean, I don't want you to lose place if you're doing,
Oh, no, I'll work around it. This is way more important.
okay, it will be on Zoom.
It's on
So,
Zoom?
yes, so you'll be able to be wherever you are, just appear on Zoom, okay?
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Will you be able to do that? Will that interfere with your experiment? Because I
No,
know
I'll-
sometimes with experiments, you have to keep an eye on.
Right, I'll make it work now.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. All right, Jose Parada. Yes, what is happening with Mr. Parada?
Apparently, Mr. Webb has finished the federal Zoom hearing, that we're ready.
Okay. So this is up for jury trial, is that correct?
It is, Judge.
Okay, all right, we'll let you know if you're it. Rodolfo Del Bosque. Rodolfo Del Bosque. Mike Marino. Hello, Mr. Marino.
Hello, ma'am.
Right, so what is happening with,
Well, Judge, we talked to the complainant's father today, and there's a change in the victim's circumstance. He told us that there's federal hold on her. And so that's news to us, and so we're looking into that to provide that to Mr. Gebbia as required.
okay,
So as soon as I have that information, I'll turn it over to Mr. Campbell.
Currently in custody, Judge. We have also had some plea negotiations potentially, but we need to kind of get to the bottom of where she's at and what's going on with her.
all right, so what time do you anticipate?
If we could have at least 30 days, Judge, just to figure out, especially if it's federal, you know how hard it is to get information from them,
Yes.
to figure out what's going on there. But I think within 30 days, I'll have Miguel start working on it today.
All right, Ms. Ferguson, can I have a 30-day reset on Mike Marino?
I can do June 28th.
All right, June 28th. And you said it's the complainant who has a federal issue?
Yes.
She's in custody.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Ferguson will give you your reset date. And defense, other than that part of discovery, do you have all the discovery?
Yes, we believe we have all the discovery, and we did execute the discovery acknowledgement many Zoom hearings ago, Your Honor.
All right, let me make sure I have that in the file.
No sign of it?
Yes, the court does not have the discovery acknowledgement. So if you all can make sure that that gets done, at least it's not in the court's file.
Do you want that today, Judge?
Just make sure that you all have it done before June 28th.
Yes, Judge.
Yes. All right, and then there's some motions that he has in the file.
I think I've responded to most of them, but
Only thing I think we were talking about last was 440 and 3037. You were getting most of that stuff, which it sounds like now there's a little bit more maybe.
yes. And
All right.
as every child sex case, there's complications.
Yes, so just whenever you, if you all will make sure that you confer on docket to see what motions you can agree on, and those you can't agree on, I will hear those. And Mr. Gebbia, your client appears to have filed motions. Mr. Marino, you have an attorney, that is your attorney. So those are the motions that I hear, and any motions that were adopted by your attorney. You understand?
Yes, ma'am. I stopped putting those in once I figured that out.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I be excused?
Yes. And Mr. Gebbia, Ms. Ferguson will give you a reset form.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's already in the system.
All right, thank you.
I already doesn't know about everything. Cool. Thank you so much.
All right, could I see the criminal trial division prosecutors on Adam Blake Carroll? This is a case where bond forfeiture was executed.
Yeah.
But the court has now been given medical proof. So I'm going to recall that.
Just the only addition, and obviously Mr. Norton's not here, but I think he made it clear to the court also. I think he missed a prior one because of a health issue also. But in the interim, he did get arrested for a new offense. So, you know, for what it's worth.
All right, so if the, if the state wants to file something.
Correct. We understand.
All right, thank you.
I do expect that we may amend that NTR in that particular case once we figure out a little bit more about the new cases.
All right, thank you. Look, can I have the beach page on Adam Carroll for both of his cases, please? Yes, on both of his cases. And Ms. Ferguson, what date are we going to give Mr. Carroll?
Are you going to the 21st?
June. Okay. And that needs to be in person.
It's in person.
Okay, all right, thank you. Here it is.
Oh, thank you.
And if you make a copy and put that in each file, there's
Yes.
only. All right, anyone else ready? All right, Norma, who's,
Contreras, Joseph Contreras.
all right, Joseph Contreras. Who's the attorney for Joseph Contreras?
I am your honor.
All right, where's Mr. Contreras? All right, Mr. Contreras, could I put a call on Joseph Contreras? All right, Mr. Contreras, and Brenda, we're gonna go on record. Court is calling 2020 CR 11338, State of Texas versus Joseph Contreras. May I have parties announced for the record for the state,
Ryan Groomer and Brittany Sparks.
for the defense?
Christine McDonald, Mitch Yeager.
Okay. So, Mr. Contreras, court's understanding that you're requesting a jury trial, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so jury's gonna be in the hallway and we will proceed. Defense and state, the court does not have the acknowledgement of discovery.
Judge, I am signing that right now, Your Honor. I also have a motion in limine and an offer of proof that I'd like to put on the record regarding my client's clothing before the jury comes in, Judge.
Yes, what is the issue with his clothing?
Your Honor, I just would like to question my client. I offered to provide him with clothing and do a property exchange. My court partner also did that. My client is wearing the clothes that he was found in on the day of the incident, Judge. He has refused to sign the property form, which would allow us to do that exchange, Judge. And I just want to make sure that that's on the record, that we did attempt to do that clothing
All
exchange.
right, it's on the record.
Just one more brief preliminary thing, Judge. On the indictment, Judge, there's 2 counts.
Mhm.
The state would waive count 2. We're only proceeding on count 1. They're both aggravated robbery counts. Count 2 is a different victim. We'd waive count 2 for purposes of the jury trial and proceed solely on count 1.
Any objections?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then count 2 is waived.
Also, Judge, we did file a notice of intent to use prior convictions for Mr. Contreras' prior convictions. It's my understanding he's filed an election to go to the jury for punishment. Just to make the court aware, and I think we've spoken with the defense, that we are proceeding on the case as a habitual case. And since they're going to punishment to the jury, we'd like to qualify the jury on that issue, which I think is in count.
Your Honor, I've discussed that matter with my client. We're aware, we received that motion. We will reserve any objections we have as far as the enhancements for punishment. depending on the predicate laid by the state judge.
All right, and with regards to voir dire state, you are allowed to mention that the range of punishment for this offense may be 2 to 20 years, or it may be 25 years to life, but not go into specifics that Mr. Contreras is alleged to be a habitual.
Understood, of course, Judge. You did say 2 to 20, but it is 5 to 99.
No. He's charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
Aggravated robbery.
I'm sorry. Then with aggravated robbery, Mr. Contreras, it's 5 to 99 years or life. And with a habitual paragraph, if it's proven to be true, then your minimum would be 25 years and you're not eligible for probation from a jury. Do you understand?
I understand.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else that needs to be on the record?
Yeah, well, Your Honor, I did file a motion in limine that I'd like to have you rule upon before the jury. comes
Yes.
in. Do you have a copy, Judge?
No, I do not.
I have an extra one, but if you need it.
She has an extra one. Yes. All right. All right, State, do you have any objections? It appears to be a standard motion in limine.
Judge, I don't. The only thing though is I don't know that any of this would affect voir dire, and I haven't read through it yet, Judge. Is there any way we can take this up very quickly tomorrow or after voir dire, after I've had a chance just to look at it? It looks pretty standard and I don't expect to have any objections, but I don't think it would affect voir dire necessarily.
All right.
Well, Judge, I mean, it's a standard motion and, you know, it might not affect voir dire, but I want to make sure none of these issues come up during voir dire. So if the state can just quickly read through, it's pretty standard as you mentioned.
All right, State.
I'll look at it.
Is the jury in the hallway?
Yes,
And they're all here?
not all here, they went to go out, they could ticket, they'll be right out.
Okay, all right, thank you. And Lizzie, do you have the jury list?
They're over there.
Okay.
And the witness.
All right, thanks.
Judge, upon my read of it, like I said, I don't expect it to become an issue in voir dire, but we will approach before going into anything that is affected by the motion.
All right. Then State, the defense, the motion in limine will be granted. And State, if you plan to go into any of the items in the motion in limine, just ask the coach first.
We will, Judge.
All right, is there anything else?
No.
All right, then Brennan, we can close the record. All right, so Ms. Ferguson. The other people who are up for jury trial, could I have their files, please? And State for, I'm sorry, family violence.
Yes, sir.
That's gonna be where defense is seated.
Yes, I'm moving right now.
Packing up, okay,
I got the hint, Judge.
all right. All right, the party's on Deshandra McAfee.
Yes, ma'am.
It appears that this case may go. If this case doesn't go, then you'll still be on call for this week. But I'm going to give you a different trial date, but you still need to be available because you may get called back this week.
So it's the weirdest thing. I didn't pay my phone bills. And so you won't actually be able to get a hold of me. So-
Well, here's the weirdest thing. I know where you live. All right, so Ms.
Okay,
Ferguson, I need
stalker.
a jury trial date on McAfee, please.
End of June or July. I'm gonna be out for a couple weeks in the middle of June. Please. It's family violence.
Okay.
July 25th, we start an Act 6 in Wilson County, so I can't do that. But other than that week, I'm relatively open. I really am in July.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay. Sure.
All right, so we're back on July 19th at 9 a.m.
Okay.
All right, and state is available to the president. All right, Carlos Garcia.
We're present here, Judge.
Yes, what is?
You want us in front?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm here. Oh, that's okay. Does you need the state police?
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Garcia, my understanding you still want your jury trial, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, as you know, we can try 2 cases at one time. So you will still be on call for this week, depending on what happens with this, but we're gonna give you a date. Ms. Ferguson, can you put Mr. Carlos Garcia on the next available trial setting, please? All right, you'll be back on June 7th for your jury trial.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. That'll be at 9 a.m. And as I stated before, you'll be dressed in whatever you have at the jail, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, who is on Jose Lozano?
Good.
Yes. Yes. All right, what is happening with your case?
Essentially, Judge, when I was before the court yesterday, I informed the court that I put all my efforts and energy towards the murder case that just finished on Monday, Judge. So I said I was not ready, Your Honor. And essentially, I don't know if Your Honor remembers, you had appointed a immigration attorney to Mr. Lozano's case to look into the impact consequences. And the immigration attorney had said it had to be tried.
Okay. All right, so Ms. Ferguson, can I have a jury trial date as soon as possible for Mr. Lozano?
June 7th.
All right, June 7th.
Yes, Judge.
All right, she'll give you a reset form. And you're still on call, depending on what happens with this case.
Yes, Judge.
You're welcome. Thank you. Angel. Angel votes. Yes, I can never roll my R's.
I can roll them in English.
Okay, all right, so what is happening with your case?
We defer, Judge. I think we're in the past. I think we need to get back to the document.
All right, why is it this is a 2019 case and this is the first setting?
I think he was in California or
Okay.
somewhere. He had other stuff.
All right, you're previously in California?
Excuse me?
Were you previously in California?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you conferred with the state?
Yes, Judge.
Is this criminal trial division or family violence?
Family.
Was an offer tender?
Judge, I think the offer was a jury or dismissal. So we didn't, there was nothing in between.
All right, so here's the thing, I do require the state to tender an offer. So Ms. Ferguson on Angel Varela, can I have a 2-week reset? The state will give you an offer, okay?
There should be an offer, Judge.
Oh, there is? I didn't see one in the file. He may have put one in the, I'm not aware of.
All right, we're gonna come back on June 13th.
Okay, Judge.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
you're welcome. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Oh, Judge, did we have discovery on there? I think I got all the.
No, I don't have discovery either.
Okay, we
In
can.
the box. All right, thank you. Mary Vidal. Who's the person on Mary Vidal?
Yeah.
Have I already issued it? Okay, thank you. All right, is there anyone else remaining? All right, what is happening? Dabowski, come up.
I conferred on it.
Yes,
So I believe
I'm sorry,
you're
you
next.
conferred?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have all the discovery?
I believe I did, yes.
Was an offer tender?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Ferguson on Del Bosque, could I have a 30-day reset, please?
June 28th.
All right, we'll come back on June 28th.
Thank you.
June 28th is your plea deadline date, Mr. Del Bosque, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else?
Yes, sir. We
Yes.
just need a new date for Mr. Ferrata.
All right, Ms. Ferguson, I need a jury trial date for Mr. Parada. Do you have all the discovery? I'm
Yes, Your
assuming,
Honor.
And everything?
Yes, sir.
I don't have discovery in the file.
Judge, I will say, I did talk to Guillermo a little bit. There is some confusion about some of the discovery. But I'm gonna work with, after I get done with this trial, we'll work with Guillermo to make sure we're on the same page with that. He thinks he has all the discovery. I think there might be some stuff out there, but nonetheless, if you can give us a regular reset, I will get that done with Guillermo before then.
All right, Ms. Ferguson. Parada, can we reset this in 45 days? That would be your plea deadline date and jury trial date. Is that enough time, state?
I believe so. I believe so. I'll get with Guillermo after I finish with this.
Okay.
I can do July 9th.
All right, we'll see you on July 19th.
July 19th.
How much time are you all asking for, you?
Judge, I would say 40, 45 minutes.
I was gonna request 45 minutes. Okay.
There's an aggravated robbery judge punishment to the jury. He's a habitual offender, so I think there are a couple issues. If we could get 45 minutes, I think that would be appropriate with that.
All right, I'll give you all 45 minutes. I know others will give 15, but I'll give each side 45 minutes.
That's next week, Judge.
Yes, is that the only juror who's out there?
That I'm aware of. We haven't really checked with the restrictions. They were ordered to go to the third floor, not to the fourth floor.
Okay.
Judge may I have you?
Yes. you can be
Thank you.
excused. Oh, have all the numbers been put on the seats?
Yes, but I need stickers.
Oh, we need stickers for the seats. Okay. Yes.
And this chair. Yeah. They can get the chairs and board it. Yeah.
Judge, if I may, too, just to confirm, I know the normal practice in the court, we will start with opening tomorrow morning, correct?
Yes.
Just for the court's planning purposes, Judge, we expect to have 4 or 5 witnesses, and I think we will rest tomorrow.
All right. And just so everyone knows, I am qualifying jurors, so we won't start at 9. We will be starting more probably at 9:30 at the earliest. And Brenda, can you go on the record?
Yeah.
So defense and state were on the record. The juror, one of the jurors is not available. There's been a medical emergency with that juror. And I will tell you that juror's number in just one moment. It is juror number 56. Is there any objection to excusing juror number 56 due to a medical emergency state?
None from the state.
Defense?
No, from the defense.
And Ms. Torres, I don't think I've had the honor of having you in your counsel in this court for jury trial. So just, the state already knows this. Each side will have 45 minutes. And you can use those 45 minutes however you choose to use them.
It's Miss McDonald.
Oh, sorry, what did I say, Taurus?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah,
Well,
you know
that
why?
was my
Because
baby.
I'm thinking of
Oh, there you
Natasha. I'm thinking of Natasha Torres. But thank you. And the other thing is, the way we do jury strikes is if you don't have to strike a juror in front of the entire pool. At the end of voir dire, whatever strikes you and the state can agree on, I usually accept those. And then if there is something that you can't agree on and we need to call a juror up, we will do so. You're welcome. I can't believe I said Ms. Torres. You're like, who's she talking to?
Judge, you said 56 and 16.
Yes, 56, excused.
So maybe we'll take cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
It does. I always have to remind people that's expensive. And just to make sure I have the right clause number, it's 2020 CR 11338. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Probation, okay. Can you let her know that I received an email from felony drug court with regards to Ray? They've already accepted her, so we just need the referral. Yes, so they should be able to take her immediately. It's Marina Ray. Oh, okay, can you get that to Mama?
Judge, you have the few pages on Evan Corral? Wait. What? The few pages you have, Evan Corral?
Yes. And I was like. Naomi, did you send that email for Abota? Did you receive that email from Abota? Like I need to set aside some time to speak with them.
We're just missing that one person, Judge.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much.
Oh, ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Okay. You want to get a mic? Yeah, we're ready, like that's ready to go. It's really, really hot out in the hallway. They're lined up, ready to go. Okay.
Everyone, please rise.
I mean, the first row way after initial number on there. Is it great? Okay, second row way at the end. Fifty's on the bench. Thirty. Sorry.
No, I believe he's 57. All right, everyone, please be seated. And everyone, if the shades are not for medical reasons, you need to take those off in court. All right, everyone, welcome to the 187 District Court. I'm Judge Stephanie Boyd. This is the 187 District Court on the 4th floor. So where are we?
What floor?
Okay, see, that's not a trick question. So which floor are we on? What's the court number? Who's the judge? Okay, see, then you guys trailed off on that part. All right, the reason why I always start with that is because we have to make sure that everyone knows where they are. And I know you all are probably saying, of course we know where we are. But here's what has happened before. We have been missing a juror and everybody's been looking for the juror. Where's the juror? Where's the juror? And it turns out that they were down the hall about to be selected on another jury and they were not in the 187. So I always tell people, if ever you get lost, if you remember you're on the 4th floor, If you can't remember you're on the fourth floor, if you say the 187th, people will tell you it's on the fourth floor. And if all else fails, and you want to take the easy route, you just say, we're looking for Judge Boyd's court. I'm the only Judge Boyd in all of the courthouse, so they'll be able to tell you where it is located. So I've introduced myself to you. I'm going to allow the attorneys to introduce themselves for the state.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Brewer for the state of Texas.
And I'm Brittany Sparks.
And for the defense,
Christine McDonald.
Mitchell Yeager.
Tanya Jubetta.
and the defendant of the person who's accused, please. All right. Now, everyone has had a chance to see all of the people who have introduced themselves. Is there anyone here who recognizes or knows anyone who's just introduced themselves? All right, great. So these are the rules of the 187th District Court. You have something very expensive in your hand. They are cards with numbers on them. So everyone, if you're able to raise those cards, please raise those cards. See, we already got our workout, so this can be part of your steps. All right, you can lower them. If you ever need to say something to any attorney or someone who's asking you a question, or you wish to speak about something, you need to raise that card before you say anything, and then whoever is speaking will address you. Brenna's to my right. She's the court reporter. She's taking down everything that is being said. If she didn't take it down, then it's sort of like it didn't happen, and she needs to be able to hear everyone. I think she's the best court reporter going around. She can take down people talking at, 3 people talking at once, but we're not going to do that. Today is Tuesday. It's a happy Tuesday. So we're going to make her day and her job extra easy by allowing only one person to talk at one time. Here's the other rule. If you, and I'm hoping you guys follow this rule, not a single jury has followed this rule. So if you're in the jury box and if you're on the front row, when there's something you want to say, you don't have to stand because we can hear you. But the acoustics in this courtroom is not good. So anyone who is not in these 2 rows on this first row, if there's something you need to say, you'll need to raise your card and stand so that we can hear you. And I'm going to ask everyone to please speak loudly and clearly so that Brenda can hear you, so that I can hear you. So this case is the state of Texas versus Joseph Contreras. The charge in this case is aggravated robbery. And I know sometimes people will hear cases and they wish they were in civil court, or they wish they were in municipal court or juvenile court or CPS court. But the United States, in order to have a jury trial, what is the number one thing that you need to have a jury trial?
Jurors.
Yes, jurors, okay? I always tell people about my uncle who was born in Grand Cane, Louisiana. So he ended up going to the Vietnam War. They were drafting. And before he got drafted, he's like, I'm just gonna, go and not be drafted. And besides, he was like, and I'm not going to be a sharecropper. That's not something I want to do. And he was very intelligent, and he got skipped over certain grades in school. And he had to get my grandmother to sign the form so he could go to Vietnam War. So he went to the Vietnam War. He's since passed. And I tell everybody that story because this country doesn't ask a lot of you. There's no draft anymore. So if a war happens, they're not drafting you to go. They don't even ask you to vote, right? The only thing that your country is asking of you is when you're called up for jury duty, you come and you serve. That's all that's being asked of you. So I want you to keep in mind the sacrifices that other people have made, and that the only thing that's being asked of you today is to be here for jury duty. I know it gets hot in this courtroom. I've talked to the powers that be about that. I'm not in charge of the temperature. I know you see the temperature gauge over there, the thermostat, and people think I have control over that. I have absolutely no control. If I turn it, it doesn't do anything. I think that's just something to make you feel good. Let me lower it and maybe it'll happen. So I've asked you if you know any of the parties involved in this case, but my next question is, do any of you know each other than just meeting downstairs or seeing each other in line? Does anyone know anyone That's odd. Usually we have a teacher. Yes, number 67.
I know Cheryl Hawkins.
Ah. Okay.
I know Cheryl Hawkins. We've worked together before.
All right. What is Cheryl's number? 27? Oh. Okay, because I was going to ask you 27. What? You didn't raise your hand. You didn't raise your card. But okay, she didn't see you. All right. Usually we have school teachers who have students on. One time we actually had the current wife and ex-wife on. So I'm seeing they got along just fine. So, all right, 67 and 27 know each other. Now, I want to talk to you about an indictment, about what it is and what it isn't. How many people have had a traffic ticket before? See, this is me. People are raising their hand instead of the card. This is me getting used to raising your card. All right. So I've had one traffic ticket in my entire life. When I received my traffic ticket, it was at a time where the officers still had paper. Now I think they do it electronically. So when you get a traffic ticket, let's say it's running a stop sign, or they're saying you ran a red light, or you didn't follow the rule of the yield sign. When they give that ticket to you, that's letting you know this is what you're charged with. And you can go to municipal court. This is when you can go to answer for what we're saying we think you did. An indictment is similar to that. An indictment is just an instrument, a means by which someone is brought to court, and it tells you this is what you're charged with. This is where you need to be. It is not an evidence of guilt. So when you receive your traffic ticket and you accept your traffic ticket, it's not saying that you're saying you're guilty. It's just letting you know what you're charged with and where you need to be to answer. Does everyone understand? So an indictment is not evidence of guilt. It cannot be considered in any way as an evidence of guilt, and it cannot be given any weight. Does everyone understand? Yes. Is there anyone here who's going to hold it against Mr. Contreras because he's here by an indictment? All right, the next thing, how many of you have seen all the legal shows? I'm going to age myself. Look, some people haven't. Thank you, you're using the cards. I'm going to age myself. You know, for me growing up, it was Barnaby Jones, Mannix, Paper Chase, The Practice. So anyway, how many of you have heard the right to remain silent before? All right, is there anyone here who hasn't heard of the right to remain silent? All right, 31, 32, 21, 67. 21, you haven't heard of the right to remain silent? Okay. All right, so this is what it means with regards to a right to remain silent. Everyone is presumed to be innocent. No one has to give testimony against themselves. Like if you've ever seen Beretta, you have a right to remain silent. They give you a list of your rights. And what that means also is that anyone who's accused of an offense does not have to testify at all. Does everyone understand that? So no one can call someone as a witness who's been accused in a criminal case. Does everyone understand? Yes. All right. And that is a right that a person who's accused of an offense has. Is anyone going to hold it against Mr. Contreras if he chooses not to testify? Okay. Now, I mentioned to you about presumption of innocence. Everyone is presumed innocent until and unless the state proves its case against the person who's accused beyond a reasonable doubt. So as Mr. Contreras sits here today, he's presumed to be innocent. So if this were the end of the case, we're just sitting right here, then guess what? He would be presumed to be innocent because you have not received any evidence. Does everyone understand? Yes. Now, the state has the burden of proof. What is their burden of proof? Their burden of proof is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. When I was in law school, there was a definition of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. You had to know it backwards and forward. You felt like your life was coming to an end if you couldn't memorize it. I memorized that. My very first trial in 1997, as a defense attorney, I had to know that definition. I used it. I was great at using it. And then my very next trial, they did away with the definition for proof beyond a reasonable doubt. I tell you that because there is no definition for proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, as my time as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney, what I would then always do is tell people what it wasn't. So on the civil side, they have preponderance of the evidence. They have a burden called clear and convincing evidence. And clear and convincing evidence is the evidence that is needed in order to terminate or take away someone's parental rights, their rights to raise their children. Does everyone understand? Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is a higher burden than that. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is the highest burden that we have. Does everyone understand? Okay. Now, there are two phases to every trial in Texas. The first trial, people will say it's the innocence part, but actually it's the guilty, not guilty part. That's phase one. And in phase one, what ends up happening is evidence is presented and a jury makes a determination, if they can, whether or not someone's guilty or not guilty. If they decide that someone's not guilty, then that's the end of the trial. There is no phase two. If the jury were to decide someone to be guilty, then there's phase two of the trial, which is called punishment phase. In Texas, it is required that a defendant make an election or a selection of where they would go to if they were found guilty. That's something that a defendant must make a choice about before jury selection. In this case, Mr. Contreras has decided if he were to be found guilty, then he would ask the jury to determine his punishment. Does everyone understand? Is anyone going to hold it against Mr. Contreras? It's because he has made that election. Okay. Now, making that election is not in any evidence of guilt. It's just something that is required of anyone who's accused and they're in a jury trial. Does everyone understand? Deputy Laura, can you make sure you check the temperature so we can send them up what the temperature is in here now? All right. The other thing is what's called the one witness rule. And this is the one witness rule, and I'm going to give you a hypothetical. Please do not add anything, thank you, to the hypothetical that I'm about to give you. Don't ask, well, was it right outside? You know, was Mrs. Kravitz there? People know the Kravitz reference. All right, don't add any of that. This is the hypothetical. This state brings one witness to you. Not two, not three, not four, just one witness. And this is a hypothetical. That one witness, there's no issue with that witness's credibility. You believe that witness. You believe what they're testifying to. They're telling you that something, hypothetically, happened on May 23rd, 2022 at 9 a.m. and you believe them. And they tell you everything that happened. And what they're telling you proves the state's case beyond a reasonable doubt. Is everyone following my hypothetical so far? Then the question becomes, will you be able to follow the law and find someone guilty with just that one witness? Is there anyone here who would not be able to follow the law and find that person guilty with just one witness? All right, what's your number?
9.
Number 9, 15, 70, 18, 72, 49, and 38. All right, the other thing I want to, 73 and 74. Okay, I think, and number 1. I think I have everyone. All right, the other thing I want to talk to you about is the English language. I absolutely love hearing different languages. I'm from Louisiana originally, so I decided to take French in school. Didn't realize I would end up in Texas, and it's not as needed here. But I understand that for some, maybe English is not your first language, maybe it's your second or third. I've met some people who it's their fourth language. The person I went to law school with, it was his sixth language, believe it or not. And I just find it fascinating and beautiful that people can speak so many languages. But if there's anyone here who English is not your first language, and you've had some difficulty or hard time understanding the concepts that I've given to you, please raise your card. Now, mind you, here's the question with that. If English is not your first language, then how will you be able to understand what I just said to you? But we will figure it out. All right, the other thing is I want to talk to people about time constraints. Is there anyone here who has a time constraint where they feel it will interfere with their ability to serve? And when I say time constraints, I mean you're taking a trip. There is non-refundable tickets. You can't transfer it to me. Is there any situation like that? All right, number one, where are you headed?
I'm heading out to Arizona.
When?
The 17th through the 28th of June.
Okay, you'll be fine. Thank you. Anyone else? Number 24?
Puerto Rico. When to Puerto Rico,
When are you going?
June 1st.
All right, thank you. You'll be fine. Number 46?
I can't hear you. June 3rd.
I can't hear you.
June 3rd.
Where are you headed?
Mhm.
What do you-
And I have a doctor appointment on Friday.
What are you doing in Cancun? I'm sorry, fishing?
Vacation.
Vacation? Do you really need a vacation? Okay, all right, thank you.
And I have a doctor's appointment that I can't miss on Friday.
All right, and your juror number
46.
46. All right, number 60.
This Thursday, I gotta drop my car off.
See, nobody's following the rules. If you're not in the jury box or in this front row, I need you to stand so I can hear you. Yes.
This Thursday, I gotta drop my vehicle off in Dallas, full day. That's it.
Okay, why are you dropping your vehicle off in Dallas?
I'm PCS into Greece for a year. Military.
Okay, awesome. I absolutely loved Greece. 74.
International travel, I have to take a test tomorrow to be able to enter the international test.
All right, where are you traveling internationally?
Europe,
What part? What are you seeing?
Switzerland, Germany, France, Holland.
All right, do you speak any of those languages?
No.
Are you sure you don't want to stay here with us? All right, number 54. The 31st of May? What exam is this? All right, we're sending good vibes your way. Are you studying still for it? Okay. All right, number 50.
I'm leaving on Friday for vacation just down to the coast here in Texas.
Okay, all right, thank you. Why is everybody whispering? All right, number 48.
I'm going to Rio Dosa. Granddaughter rented a cabin up there for us.
When are you going?
We leave Saturday morning.
Okay. What are you planning on doing there? Are you just gonna enjoy, relax?
Just enjoy, yeah. She said there's a new lake they're gonna open up over there.
Oh, wow. All right. Be sure to take beautiful pictures.
Oh, well, definitely.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Number 23.
I have a doctor's appointment this Thursday.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, everyone, before I turn it over, yes?
I also have a doctor's appointment Friday.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, before I turn it over to the state to start asking you questions, I'm going to tell you a true story. So I have this friend. She decided to practice civil law. I always wanted to practice criminal law. I loved it. And we hadn't seen each other for a while. We went to law school together at St. Mary's. And she said, hey, I have jury duty. You want to do lunch? And I'm like, yeah, let's do lunch. We hadn't seen each other in ages, because of her work in the civil firm and me doing my work. So we meet for lunch and it's like time has not passed. We're back in law school. So I'm just like, how's it going? You know, how are you enjoying it? She's like, it's fabulous. I'm like, wow, I never heard people say jury selection is fabulous. And I'm like, why are you saying it's fabulous? And she said, oh, it's just like when I was in law school. She's like, I'm in the back, keeping my head down, not saying anything. And so I couldn't help but laugh. And I was laughing hysterically. And she's like, what is so funny? I said, you are so getting selected for that jury. She's like, why am I getting selected for the jury? I said, other than raising your card and begging people to select you, the fastest way to get on a jury is not to say anything. So I leave you with that true story. And by the way, she ended up being selected on the jury, but we got to have lunch each week. So that was good. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the state.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, guys. My name is Ryan Groomer, and along with Brittany Sparks here, I represent the state of Texas. And today, just like the judge said, we're here on an aggravated robbery case against the defendant, Joseph Contreras, okay? Now, who here watches a crime TV show? I think we've talked about it. I'm not gonna call numbers, but we've all seen them, right? Law and Order, CSI, there's a whole bunch of them, right? When you think about a prosecutor, is there a specific person that you maybe picture? Anyone? Number 4.
Parisi from, I think it's CSI.
CSI, okay.
I don't watch it a whole lot.
Sure,
but
sure.
I catch it every now and then.
And the little silly example I use on this one is not one that I watch, but my parents watch it just on a loop. I think they've seen every episode. It's been on for whatever, 1,000,000 years, but it's this one, right? Law and Order. That's Jack McCoy. And he's a prosecutor in that show. Now, what I'm telling you in this is that that's what a TV prosecutor is. And I may not be as suave and debonair and have the cool gray hair thing going on, but that doesn't mean that it's not important, okay? And just like he does on the show, I'm charged with talking to you guys about something that happened and proving a case beyond the reasonable doubt, all right? I want to talk a little bit about what Boy Diary is, what we're doing right now, okay? It's a word that's a funny word that you don't hear unless you're an attorney or around the things that we do, but it's Latin or French for to speak the truth. And that's what we're asking you guys to do. There's no wrong answers. We just want to find out what you guys feel, okay? So that we can give a fair trial to not only the state, but to Mr. Contreras. If we don't hear from you guys and if we don't hear from the truth, we don't know where you sit on certain issues, and that's part of the process, okay? Now, we can't get into the facts of the actual case. That's a legal thing. It's not anything we choose. We're just going to talk about broad ideas. As I said, speak up. There's no wrong answers. We just want to hear what you think. And just like Judge said, the quiet ones are usually the ones who get picked, okay? So if you do have an opinion, please let us know. Now, just like I talked about, Hollywood TV shows you see on TV, it's a little different in real life, okay? As much as I'd love to tell you otherwise, it's unlikely that this case is going to turn on a satellite image of a license plate from up in space or a piece of hair that was only, that is conditioned by a shampoo that's only sold at one corner store. But that's for TV, right? They have to make it exciting. But that doesn't mean that what we're doing is important. Now, sometimes in the real world, what we have is just people like you guys, members of our community, who come into a courtroom and tell what they saw happen or what happened to them, okay? So that's one of the things that I always like to talk to everyone about. Just when you see it on TV, remember that that's not, they're making it exciting, right? They're making it so that everyone will watch it. Now, aggravated robbery, that's what we're here for. And I'm gonna go to this next slide, and I'm gonna go a few times and do this during this part of the trial, because this is a conversation with 65 people, and I'm not going to get to know what every single one of you guys think on certain issues. So in order to be respectful of you guys' time and to get a little bit of information, I'm going to have a number of questions, okay? And what I'm going to have is these questions up here, as you can see, wherever you can look at a monitor, are going to have 4 answers. And what I want you guys to do when I put the question up there is to start looking through them, read them through them, and pick the one that best fits you, okay? Pick the one that best fits you, and you can only pick one, okay? That's the rule. Just pick the one that best fits you. It doesn't have to be perfectly what you would say. Obviously, I don't have 65 different answers, but it is a way for us to get a little bit of information about what you guys would think. And in a second, I'm gonna read it to y'all. I'm gonna let y'all think on it. And then I'm gonna ask who is a number one, and then all the ones will raise their card and I'll count through them. Who's a number two, and so on and so on, okay? So the very first one is, what is your opinion of the criminal justice system and your rights? 1, terrible, it takes away our rights. 2, concerning, it interferes with our rights. 3, helpful, it looks out for citizens. Or 4, beneficial, it protects us from the harmful actions of others, okay? All right, and like I said, there's no wrong answers. Someone has answered a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4 on this question. I've done it tons of times. Don't feel, you pick the one that best fits you. Everyone who 1 is their best answer, they raise their card right now. 1. I have 47, 53, and 72. Now number 2, concerning. 25, 50, 54, and 68, also 28. Now 3, helpful, it looks out for our citizens. 1, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 27, 29, 33, 34, 36, 39, 40, 42, 43, 44, 45, and 46, 48, and 49, 55, so 57, 58, 60, 61 through 64, 65, 66, and 67, 69, 70, and 71, and 73 and 75. Okay, now 4, beneficial. It protects us from the harmful actions of others. We have 2, 3, 6, 8, 11, 14, 26, 30, 31, 32, 35, 37, 38, 51, 52, 59, and 74. Okay, thank you. That's easy enough. And I know it's a little bit of a tedious process, but it's a way for us to get a lot of information, or a little bit of information about a different, everyone's answers on a different question, okay? And actually, I'm gonna go right into another one right here, okay? This is another one, general thoughts about the criminal justice system. And it says, in your opinion, what is the problem with our criminal justice system? 1, the police are corrupt. 2, the system intentionally targets some people. 3, when a defendant gets off on a technicality. Or 4, people who commit serious crimes don't get serious punishment. Okay, so pick the one that you believe is best, fits what your opinion is the major problem with the criminal justice system. All right, everyone who has number 1, can they raise their card? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, number 2. We have number 2, 7, 9, 13, 14, 21, 23, 29, 31, 33, 36, 37, 39, 44, 45, 47, 49, 50, 54, 58, and 59, 62, 67, and 68, 70, 71, and 72. Okay, what about 3? When a defendant gets off on a technicality? 1, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11, 15, 17, 18, 24, 25, 26, 27, 32, 34, 38, 40, 42, 43, 46 and 48, 51, 52 and 53, 57 and 60, and 63 and 64. Okay, one last one. People who commit serious crimes don't get serious punishment. Number 3, number 12, number 16, 19, 20, 28, 30, 35, 45, 55, 65, 66, 69, 73, 74, and 75. Okay, guys, let's take a break from that because it's a lot of just numerical talking for me, okay? Let's talk about the charge that we're here today for, okay? And it's an aggravated robbery, but aggravated robbery starts with a robbery, okay? And you'll get, we'll talk about the law here in a second, but essentially we're going to talk about what a robbery is, okay? And what a robbery is that in the course of committing a theft of property and with intent to maintain the control of the property that you're taking, you intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly cause bodily injury to another person, or you intentionally or knowingly threaten imminent bodily injury or death. Okay? Now, lawyers have a way of making everything way harder than it is, right? But a theft is pretty straightforward, okay? It's when you take something that doesn't belong to you without the permission of the person who owns it, okay? So we have a theft. Along with that theft, in the course of committing a theft, you do one of two things. You intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly cause bodily injury or hurt someone, or you threaten, okay? You threaten imminent bodily injury or death. And that's all a robbery is, okay? If someone takes my pen while I'm not looking and just takes it without hurting me or threatening to hurt me, that's just a theft. But if they come and say, I'm going to hit you in the face if you don't give me that pen, and I hand over the pen, that's a robbery, okay? Does everyone kind of see what the difference between a robbery and a theft would be? All right. Well, let's talk about what makes it aggravated. Today, we're here on an aggravated robbery. Now, an aggravated robbery, sometimes you hear it called an armed robbery, all right? The thing that makes something an aggravated robbery is that you use a deadly weapon while you do this, okay? And a deadly weapon, I have the definition up here, but essentially it's anything that its manner and use or intended use is capable of causing death or serious bodily injury, okay? Or a firearm, okay? A gun, a pistol, a rifle, anything that's a firearm is automatically a deadly weapon. That one is per se a deadly weapon. Now, the other part though covers a lot of things too. Can anyone think of a deadly weapon other than a gun that in its manner of use or intended use is capable of causing death or serious bodily injury? I got you for, let me call number 14. A knife, right? A knife can cause death or serious bodily injury. I'm sure we've all heard stories. We've all felt a knife. If it's sharp and you put it in the wrong spot, it can cause death or serious bodily injury. Anyone have one other than a knife? Number 12.
A baseball bat or crowbar.
Sure, right? A baseball bat or crowbar. If you hit someone in the head with something that's hard, it's going to cause serious bodily injury and possibly kill them, right? So that's why on that particular one, it's a deadly weapon when it's used in that fashion. Anyone else have another one? Number 25. Your hands.
Yes.
And sure, in certain situations, your hand, and I forgot, you have to stand up if I call someone back there, but number 25, you said your hands, right? But it's not always, right? Because it's, if I go up to someone and I shove them, and it's just a little shove, the way I use my hands probably wasn't going to cause death or serious bodily injury. Now, if I go on someone and I start punching them, and after they fall down, I keep punching them and punching them and punching them, that's using your hands in a way that can cause death or serious bodily injury, right? Okay. I had a couple of examples, obviously the gun, the bat, number 12 said the bat, or a knife, okay? So that's what an aggravated robbery is. We make it aggravated when you use a weapon that can cause death or serious bodily injury during the commission of a theft or an attempted theft. And here's, it's just written out, and this is the long way to say it, but essentially this is the way the charge is going to appear in your jury charge if you make it onto this jury. But essentially, in the course of committing a theft and with intent to maintain whatever you're taking, you intentionally or knowingly place the complainant in fear of imminent bodily injury by threat with a deadly weapon. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Easy enough, right? Now, Judge talked a little bit about reasonable doubt, okay? And there is no doubt that it is the highest burden in the land. Beyond a reasonable doubt is the highest burden in the criminal justice system. But what I'd ask you to remember is it's not an impossible burden, and it's one that we welcome on, okay? Juries like the ones who will be seated in this jury right here, they find the burden beyond a reasonable doubt every day across the nation, and everything from speeding tickets to capital murder cases. It's not 100%, it's not beyond a shadow of doubt. You're allowed to use your common sense. It's beyond a reasonable doubt, okay? So if you're selected to this jury, you're allowed to use your logic and common sense to only look at something and find someone not guilty if you have a reasonable doubt as to whether they committed the offense. Does anyone know what that's a picture of? Number 10. A gun, right? That's easy, right? But some pieces are missing. But you know enough using your common sense, your logic, you've seen what a gun looks like before to know, even though there's pieces that are missing, that that's a gun, right? Okay. And that's kind of what we talk about when we talk about beyond a reasonable doubt. You don't have to check your common sense at the door. You can use that in order to come to a just verdict. Now, this part, we're going to talk a little bit to you guys and see if anyone has history here with this type of offense, okay? Is there anyone here who has ever been robbed, either been threatened or hurt during the theft or the effects thereafter of a theft? Is there anyone here who I can call on? Or I'm going to get everyone's number. Number 6, number 8, number 32, number 35, 38, 40, 46, 52, 53, 55, 61, 69, 74, and 75. Okay, can everyone raise theirs again real quick? I'm gonna call them. Okay, number 35. Can you stand up real quick, juror number 35, and tell me what you're referring to, if you don't mind?
Yeah, actually, it's actually break and entering. Someone broke into our house.
Okay, were you there when it happened?
Yeah, I'll walk in on it.
Wow, okay. And can you tell us a little bit about how did that happen?
We were out, they were juveniles, but they had my gun, which I went for first, but they had, so walked out of the house quickly, called the cops.
It may seem straightforward, but is that was that a situation that was fun for you?
Oh, not at all.
Of course not, right? That's scary. You don't know what the intentions are of the other person, correct?
Sure.
Okay. And that goes into the next type of thing. Is there anyone here who thinks that we shouldn't be prosecuting robbery cases? Is there anyone who says if there's a robbery case that we shouldn't prosecute them, the government shouldn't prosecute people for stealing other people's things at the threat of force? Anyone? Okay. Is anyone not going to be able to follow the law regarding robbery and convict someone if we prove to you guys beyond a reasonable doubt that a robbery occurred? Number 72. Okay, can you tell me why?
I don't necessarily believe in.
I can't hear her.
You're gonna have to speak up a little bit.
I don't believe in a criminal justice system because it usually ends in a punishment in the form of prison, and I don't believe in prisons.
I'm sorry, repeat the last part.
I don't believe in prisons.
Okay, and thank you. Thank you, number 72, for your opinion. That's all we want. We want to hear their opinion. Is there anyone who agrees with juror number 72 that because they don't believe in the criminal justice system, that they would not be able to follow the law and convict someone? Number 47?
Yeah, it's not that I don't believe in prison, I just don't believe in hours.
In hours? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant hours, H-O-U-R. You mean our prison system. Okay. And like I said, there's no wrong answers. I just want to hear how everyone thinks. Number 47, you spoke up. And I appreciate y'all's candor in answering that. I want to talk a little bit about the evidence in an aggravated robbery trial, okay? What do y'all expect to be the evidence that you would expect to see in a trial regarding an aggravated robbery? Anyone? Number 6.
Video surveillance.
Video surveillance, good. Number 5,
A witness.
a witness, someone who maybe it happened to or saw what happened. Okay. Number 2,
Maybe their weapon.
maybe their weapon, right? That was yours too. Number 11, pictures. And all of you guys are right. Evidence can be anything that that serves to show what happened, correct? It can be witness testimony, it can be pictures, it can be video, okay? Now, I want to ask you a specific question that we have to think about, okay? Regarding witnesses, people who see things, who chooses who the witnesses are whenever something happens? Who chooses who the witnesses are to a crime? I'm gonna try to call on new people every time. Number 8.
I think that people that saw what the crime was doing.
Okay. Anyone else? Number 15?
Eyewitness will go to the actual-
You might have to talk a little bit louder, number 15.
To the police that go to the actual crime.
Okay, but who decides if there are witnesses or who decides where something happened? Number 42,
Lawyers?
the lawyers. Anyone else have a different one? Number 53, if you can stand up for me, please.
Investigators.
Investigators. And I think y'all are thinking of who the witnesses are we call a trial. What about who decides where something happens whenever a crime happens? It's not any of those people necessarily. Well, who decides the witnesses are there is the person who decides to commit the crime, right? So the person who commits the crime, do you think they're likely to commit a crime where there's a million witnesses? Or do you think they're likely to commit a crime where there's not as many witnesses? Number 12.
They're most likely for less than frequented areas, so they'll be able to slip it out easily.
Correct, right? So this next picture I have right here is the coyote at the center of the Spurs arena. I don't think that would be a good place to commit a crime, right? Because you're going to have 12,000 or however many people are in that stadium looking directly at it. Now there's a dark alley. Now, a dark alley, there may be less people who see what happened, but it doesn't mean that if a crime happens in front of 20,000 people and a crime that happens in front of less people, that the crime didn't happen, correct? Okay. And think about where crimes are more likely to happen and who makes the decision where a crime is going to occur. The criminal, correct? Yeah. And what number were you at? Number 5. Okay. What about how many witnesses there were? And you know what? Honestly, I think we combine those two, but we already talked about that, right? Where it happened and how many witnesses. Now, I have another question for you guys. And like I talked about in the earlier when we were talking about Jack McCoy, a lot of people watch TV and they expect that everything is going to have crazy CSI evidence. But sometimes things get solved by just regular police work and regular witnesses who saw something happen, okay? But I want to get y'all's opinions on that. And the question I have up here is, in a trial, I expect CSI evidence. 1, I strongly agree, I need science to support it. 2, agree, witnesses are not enough. 3, disagree, I'll decide based on the evidence available. Or 4, strongly disagree, a believable witness is enough. Okay, let me see who's number 1. Who are my number 1s? All right, 15, 17, 37, 44, 45, 53, 67, 68, 69, and 72. And number 47 also. All right, who's number 2? Number 4, number 8, number 9, number 13, 18, 25, 31, 38, 39, 42, 49, 54, and 57. Number 3, disagree. I'll decide based on the evidence available, okay? There's a lot of people. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 14, 16, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 43, 46, 48, 50, 51, 52, 55, 58, 59, and 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 70, 71, and then 73, 74, and 75. And what about 4? Anyone at 4? Okay. Okay. What other witness, and I think someone mentioned it when I was asking what you expect to be a witness in a case like this, what other witness is becoming more common in a digital age? Does anyone have an answer for that? Number 24.
Your cell phone.
Your cell phone, that's a good one. Anyone else? Number 60.
Social media in general.
Social media, okay. Number 5?
Any like ring phone, doorbell phone videos.
Yeah, some type of surveillance, right? You know, if you'll see, there's 2 cameras back there with the blue lights on them. There's cameras in place, correct? I think there's another one up there above the judge's monitor, right? So that becomes very common that sometimes we see that type of evidence. And if we have it, that's fantastic, right? That's a good part of evidence that if I was on a jury, I would like that evidence. However, I think, does anyone say that if something doesn't happen on camera, that it didn't happen, right? Does anyone think that, right? We went for whatever, thousands of years without camera, and we know that things happen, correct? So what I'd ask you to think about is that should a defendant receive bonus points if something happens off camera? Does something have to happen on camera for it to happen? And we all agree that no, something doesn't have to be on camera to happen, okay? Now, if it does happen on camera and you see surveillance video and that's helpful to you, you're allowed to use it. However, we all know that sometimes that can't be the case, right? That at times things just happen and we have to hear from a witness. A couple of minor things that Judge went over briefly that I just want to touch on. It's important for me as a member of the state of Texas and the prosecution team to protect Mr. Contreras' rights also. I want him to receive a fair trial because that's very important. And one of them the judge talked to you about was the 5th Amendment. That's the right not to testify. You don't have to testify, and that isn't held against you. And that's the same right. It's written in our Constitution. It's afforded against every single one of us if that happens to us. And I want to make sure that no one's going to hold that against him, right? We're all going to be fair, and we're going to give him the same rights that each one of us would happen if we were accused of a crime, okay? So there can be a million reasons why someone may not want to testify or may not want to talk about what happens, and they can have nothing to do with guilt or innocence. They can be that they're nervous or that they're receiving advice from their attorney. And we can't hold that against them because the Constitution and all of us are afforded that same right. Is everyone okay with that? All right. Same thing with the presumption of innocence. Any one of us who's being charged with a crime, you're presumed innocent until you're proven guilty. And we're not going to hold it against anyone that they're charged with a crime until it's proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Does everyone agree to go with that? All right. Now, right now, there's no evidence in front of you. Because remember, I talked to you guys about we're not going to be able to get in the facts of this case. Now, as the trial goes along, there may be evidence that comes in. So that's why with the presumption of innocence, right now, you know nothing about Mr. Contreras' case. So he's presumed innocent until and only if me as the state of Texas proves the case against him beyond a reasonable doubt. Is everyone still okay with that? All right. Judge talked about this. These are just a couple of housekeeping questions that occasionally we run into trouble and we want to make sure we accommodate everyone. Is there anyone here who speaks English as a second language who it may be difficult for them to follow along with the testimony? And I will tell you, right now is the time to raise your card if you believe because of a language barrier, you would not be able to follow along with English as the language that you're going to hear during this trial. Or, okay, and I'll get to you, and I'm going to combine this with, or has any hearing or vision issues, and not just that you wear glasses or that you can't hear as good, but it would prevent you from being able to hear or see what's going on during a trial. Is there anyone who fits those categories? Number 16, number 24, 37, and 38, okay? Is there anyone here who has a problem because of some moral or religious reason sitting in judgment of another? Anyone who that is in that category? Number 38, anyone else? Number 1. And has anyone had themselves or someone close to them charged with a crime and they cannot be fair because themselves or someone close to them has been charged with a crime, and it would affect their ability to be a fair juror. Is there anyone who falls in that category? All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the trial, as the judge said, is split into two parts. Mr. Contreras is presumed innocent until he is proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But at that point, we go to the second part of the trial. And in this particular case, he's elected for the jury to decide what's an appropriate punishment. Okay. And one of the things that I think is important for us to know is I want to talk to you guys about a certain hypothetical to find where you fall on what you believe the criminal justice system should be about. And again, no wrong answers. And I'm going to give you two options. The goals of the criminal justice system that you believe the goals of the criminal justice should be from your perspective. And one of them is to punish people when they do wrong and deter others from doing the same thing. And number two is rehabilitate a person who does wrong and get them help. Now, I know those are even broader categories than those four things I gave. And what I'm going to ask you is it's just general, okay? Generally in regards to crime. The way I like to talk about this is that, you know, if I use it as an example, you know, I have my father is almost always going to be a number one, okay? He believes that the criminal justice system is something that he believes because of victims that they should be punished unless it's something involving substance abuse. He had a brother who passed away from substance abuse, and for him, it's a really personal issue that he deals with, and on solely drug cases, he may be a 2. But he's mostly a 1, okay? The same thing, someone may say, you know what, I'm mostly a 2, where I believe that the goal should be rehabilitation, unless a child's involved. If a child is hurt, then I'm a number 1. They're mostly a number 2, okay? So I just am telling you just generally, are you a number 1 or a number 2, okay? So I'm gonna let y'all look at that for 1 second, and then I'm gonna ask y'all in just a second for all the ones to raise their card. In just a second, I'll let you read through it. Okay. Who is a number 1 that they believe the goal should be punish people when they do wrong and deter others from doing the same thing? 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21, 24, 25, 28, 29, 30, 32, 33, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 42, 45 and 46, 49, 52 and 53, 55, 59 and 60, 61 and 62, 64, 65, 66, 67, 73, 74, and 75. And I can presume everyone else is a number 2, right? Okay. I won't go through it all because it should add out right if there's only 2 answers. If my math is right? Okay. The range of punishment in this particular case. For an aggravated robbery, generally the punishment is 5 to 99 years or life. Okay. When there's an armed robbery, anywhere from 5 years in prison to 99 years or life. Now, to be a juror on that case, you must be able to consider the entire range of punishment. Now, you got to remember, you're not deciding the punishment right now, because remember, we know nothing about the case. We're not allowed to talk to you guys about the case. There can be a million caveats. The rule is you have to be able to consider the range of punishment and say, you know what, I'll wait till I hear the evidence, but I can at least consider that range of punishment, right? Now I'm going to have an example up here, and it's kind of a silly, hokey example or whatever. But let's say that there is, and I used to call them people, I feel like it would be awkward, where I would ask who has a daughter, and I would say, well, what age do you want them to start dating? And everyone would give like the silly 45 and 50 years old and all that stuff. So we'll cut that part out. But nonetheless, you know, realistically, let's say that a realistic time to let your daughter go on a date is, let's say, I don't know, 16, 17 years old, okay? Not just a free-for-all date, but maybe she can go on a small date. And you'll consider allowing her to go on that date. Now, if the boy who rolls up to pick her up rolls up on a motorcycle. You know him as a guy who's been in trouble a lot. He doesn't have a helmet for her. He's disrespectful. He fights with his, he's not a nice guy. He shows up and he just honks his horn for her to come outside. Well, look, you considered allowing her to go on a date. You see that and you're gonna say, heck no. Now, the opposite is, let's say that it's a young man that you know and you believe him to be a good person and a good moral character, and you think he's a good student and he seems reasonable. Okay, maybe I'll let him go on a date. What I'm asking you to say is wait until you hear everything, because you don't know what you're going to hear in this trial. You just have to be able to say, you know what, I considered that range, and now that I've heard it, I believe this is appropriate. We're not saying you have to give 5. We're not saying you have to give 99 or life. We're just saying you're willing to listen to the evidence and decide what's appropriate, okay? So the first one is, can you consider 99 years or life, all right? That's the top end of this. And the bottom end, can you consider any scenario for 5 years, okay? So if the minimum in this case is 5 years, is there anyone here who, even with me giving you the hypothetical, is there anyone here who cannot consider even giving 5 years on an aggravated robbery if it was proven to you beyond a reasonable doubt? Number 21, 47, 67, 68, and 72, okay? Now, during certain circumstances, based on certain things that would be proven to you in a jury, the minimum can be raised, where the minimum is 25 years to life, okay? And the same question in that particular situation is, you must be able to consider any scenario for 25 years, all right? Now, the thing with 25 years is you're going to get to hear all kinds of stuff. You're going to hear about the case that's here. You're going to get to hear about criminal history, if there is any bad history, any bad traits or whatever, anything that happened to a potential victim. And at that point, you just have to be able to consider giving 25 years. Is there anyone here who would not be able to give 25 years, even not knowing anything they have? It could be the worst criminal history or the best criminal history in the world, is not able to sit here and wait till that happens. Number 9, 50, 53, 72, and number 29. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time. I know that this is kind of a little bit of me getting you guys as quick as I can with a whole bunch of information. I've appreciated your answers and your honesty, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone who needs a break? Brenna? Yes, okay. And those cards went up very quickly for a break. All right, so I'm gonna give you a short break, but we're gonna do a paper chase thing. And my juror who's sitting here, she knows all the programs that I know. So in paper chase, this is what the professor said. Everyone look to your left. Look at the person's face when you're looking at them. Look to the right. All right, now, this is why I asked you to do that, because when I give you your break, that means that everyone has to go on the break together. So no one can stay in the courtroom. But we can't continue with this process unless everyone is here. So if someone doesn't return to which court? Which floor? Judge? Thank you, you're with me. All right, so I'm going to, if you all can be back here by 3:55, would that give everyone enough time? All right, so yes.
We leave our stuff, so bring everything.
No, you can actually leave your stuff. No one is going to touch it. All right, so everyone, don't come into the room at 3:55. Be lined up outside at 3:55. So everyone, please rise for the jurors. All right. Oh, you can leave out now. Where do people rush? I have to go. I have family. All right, defense, you may begin.
Hi, my name is Christine McDonald. Before I get into specifics or well, not the general information I want to give you guys, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I graduated from Texas A&M University, Kingsville, did my undergraduate there. Oh, sounds like someone else has been there. After that, I went to Thurgood Marshall School of Law in Houston, where I got my law degree. I was practicing at the Cameron County District Attorney's Office for about 3 years before moving to Corpus to be closer to my family. I was at the District Attorney's Office over there for another 3 years. Now I work at the Public Defender's Office here in Dare County, where I represent indigent defendants. And I gotta say, I love my job and the opportunity to be here in front of you today. So I know you've heard this already, but I want to go over it just one more time. My job today is to make sure that we get a fair and impartial jury, right? And in order for me to do that, I'm going to have to ask you a bunch of questions, just as the state did, just as the judge did as well, because I have to make sure that your particular beliefs don't affect your ability to listen to the evidence in this case and the facts and the law of the judge puts before you. So back in Cameron County where I work, we used to have a saying, those who talk, walk. Those who have nothing to say, stay. The more you talk, the more likely you're going to say something that either I or the prosecutor might not like. So I encourage you to speak your mind, be truthful, and of course, participate. Now, let's go back to serving on particular juries. I want to give you one of my own examples. About a year ago, my car was stolen in front of my parents' house. It was a big old mess. I had to, my car was impounded. I had to go and track down all my stuff. I probably wouldn't be the most unbiased jury in a burglary of a motor vehicle case or in an unauthorized use of a motor vehicle case. And I noticed that a bunch of people here raised their hands when the prosecutor asked if you've ever been through a robbery before. Can I see those cards again? Okay, so of those people who raised their hands, how many of you think that because of your experience, you would not be able to listen to the evidence in this case and be unbiased just because of what you went through? Anyone there who raised their hands who could not listen to the evidence and be fair and impartial? No one? Number 74, 75, 40, 53? Okay. So before I get into the elements of the case, I want to talk about some procedural matters. As you heard, my client is presumed innocent. The fact that he's been charged with a crime, the fact that he's exercising his right to trial does not indicate anything. Is there anyone here that would judge my client or find that he might be probably guilty rather than someone just walking on the street because he's here on trial? Anybody here? Number 6? Anybody else? All right. Did someone else raise their hand? I'm sorry. Okay. Now let's take that a step further. As we know, and as you probably heard already today, my client has the right not to testify. Is there anyone here that would hold it against my client if he did not testify in this case? All right, good. Now I can tell you the presumption of innocence and the right not to testify are all fundamental constitutional rights that we have. They're just as important as freedom of speech and freedom of religion. Those are things that we should, hold with the utmost value, because at that point, when these types of constitutional rights come to play, someone's liberty is on the line. Does anybody here think that the right not to testify and the presumption of innocence might be a little less important than other rights that we have in this country? You know what? Jury number, what's number, sir? Yes. What are your thoughts on that? On the right not to testify and the presumption of innocence?
So this is to me.
Of course. Does anyone here disagree with that? I'm sorry, what was your number, sir?
16.
Number 16. Does anyone disagree with number 16?
I'm sorry, what did you say? To me, it's the basic keystone of to me more important than any rights, because you can't just be thrown walking out straight and thrown in the jail because of Thank you.
Does anyone disagree with juror number 16? Now, the state mentioned something about technicalities, maybe someone getting off on a technicality. Does anyone think that these rights are technicalities that might help people get off on certain crimes? Good, okay. Now, who here of all of our constitutional rights, I mentioned freedom of speech and freedom of religion, but I'm specifically talking about the right not to testify and the presumption of innocence. Who thinks that those are the most important rights that we have in this country? Really? Well, all right. Okay, so well, let's think of it this way, okay? Has anyone here in their personal lives ever been accused of something that they did not do? It doesn't have to be in the criminal justice system. To be in our personal lives between siblings. Okay, numbers 2, 6, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 24, 25, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 36, 38, 41, 44, 45, 47, 49, 52, 54, 58, 57, 64, 62, 61, 68, 67, 72, 70, 75, and 74. Okay, of those people who, and number 1, sorry about that. Of those people who raise their hands, does anyone feel comfortable sharing an example? Dr. Collins, number 15.
Here's the witchcraft Girl Scouts.
Oh my goodness. How did you feel about that?
I thought it was ridiculous.
Okay, was there anything to back that claim up?
The music that I was playing for them was in witchcraft people.
And was that in your employment?
I was a Girl Scout leader.
Okay, and did you have any negative consequences because of that?
I took that denied to go participate in one of the functions.
Oh my gosh.
I had to go through to them and talk to all the parents and show them, it's just what kids are listening to now.
And when you went through that experience, did they hear you out?
Yeah, I had a lot of parents that backed me up.
That's great to hear. Does anyone else, can you share an example with me? I'm gonna call in someone I hadn't heard from, number 47.
I was arrested and spent a night in jail in Passes County for carrying an illegal weapon. It's actually a pocket knife.
All right, everyone, if you're not on the front row or the back, you need to stand up so that Brenda can hear.
I was arrested and spent a night in jail in Passes County because the charge was carrying an illegal weapon. It was actually a pocket knife that I bought as a gift for my friend back in San Antonio. It was in the back seat, a duffel bag, in the box that it had been in on the day before when I purchased it. It was not on or about my person in such a way that was accessible to me, and I was traveling through several counties, which was cause. There were a number of reasons why it was not illegal, and I was also accused of plagiarism in college by a TA and spent most of the semester very, very stressed out because I was afraid that he was just gonna find something that he thought was close to my paper and say it was my source, and so, yeah, I have the youngest child, so I think I'm long history of being wrong.
How did you feel in those situations, being falsely accused?
Mostly angry.
Did you feel like you were first when you expressed yourself regarding those situations?
Nearly.
And see, and that's the point I want to stress today. That's why I keep harping on our constitutional rights. Those are important because I know that the prosecutors might come up here and tell you that people are convicted every day based on evidence in courtrooms all around the world. But at the same time, people are falsely accused every day in courtrooms all around the world. And it's important that we have those rights, and it's important that we hold the state to their burden for them to prove each element before we make that decision. All right, let me give you my own example since you shared with me. I am married. My husband, you know, he's almost as forgetful as I am. And occasionally he loses his credit card. Well, when he loses his credit card, instead of going to find his credit card, he goes into my purse and gets my credit card. So one day I was running really late to work, went to the gas station, and of course my credit card was not there. I gotta tell you, I was so mad at my husband. I was so annoyed all day. Did not talk to him, didn't answer the text. Yeah, I'm a little dramatic, but you know, it happens. So I get home and I'm doing laundry, and lo and behold, my debit card is in the pocket of my shorts. I felt pretty foolish, and my husband was not pleased. So those are, you know, might be silly examples, but when you apply them to the criminal justice system, they have pretty negative consequences. This is a pretty serious crime that we're here for today, and it's important that we remember that the burden is always on the state. It never shifts to my friend. I could sit there and not talk this entire time, and that the burden of proof is still on these prosecutors that sit over here. All right. So, of the people who raised their hands being falsely accused, can I have someone over here? I know there was at least one over here. Okay, what do you think should happen to people who are falsely accused of a crime? Do you think that they should go to jail just because they didn't indict it? What do you think should happen to them?
Well, I definitely think that they should be banned, and that they have to prove that they actually did something. So if they didn't, then they should be let go.
Thank you. Does anyone, I'm sorry, number 2? Does anyone disagree with jury number 2? Number 6.
You said that you had to prove their innocence, and you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty.
I did not catch that. You're very astute. Thank you. That is
That's not
correct.
what I meant, but yeah.
Okay. All right. So we can all agree here that people should not be convicted of a crime just because they're charged, right? Is that something we can all agree on? Is there anyone here that doesn't disagree or can't follow the law in that respect? All right. Now I'm going to go back and touch on beyond a reasonable doubt. You heard the prosecutor tell you the definition, that there's no definition of beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's absolutely true. But that kind of makes it seem like it could mean whatever you want it to mean, right? And that's definitely not the law. I want to go back to the example before I go into the specifics of the gun picture that they put up there with the little puzzle pieces. Do you guys remember that? Now, I don't have a fancy presentation up there, but if you can remember, there were specifically pieces missing near the muzzle of the gun. Did anyone notice that?
Yes.
Okay. How many of you here have seen a toy gun with the little orange thing at the end? Number 2, number 4, number 12. We've all seen that. My son has that in his closet right now. So even though those little pieces are missing, I mean, those are important puzzle pieces. It can change the entire story, right? So I want you to keep that in mind as you're going through this evidence, that if you do have reasonable doubt to any of these elements, the law requires you to find my client not guilty. Now, I know the judge already touched on this, but I'm going to go over it again. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things that beyond a reasonable doubt does not mean. Well, first of all, it does not mean that it is probable or more likely than not that someone is guilty. As the judge mentioned, this is a standard of proof in civil cases. So since this is a criminal case, there could be a situation where you could honestly say that you believe the defendant did more likely than not commit a crime, but you're not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. In that situation, you would be required under the law to return a verdict of not guilty. Do you think anyone here does, sorry, a little nervous. Can anyone here tell me if they would not be able to return a not guilty verdict in that situation? I might have to repeat that question because I was a little, I had to cough, so hold on. Okay. So in that situation, you would be required under the law to return a verdict of not guilty. Juror number 60, would you be able to follow the law and return a not guilty verdict in that situation? If you believe.
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone here disagree with that? You believe that he more likely than not committed a crime, but you are not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt. Does anyone here think they could not follow the law and return a not guilty verdict? All right, good. All right, so beyond a reasonable doubt is also a higher standard than clear and convincing evidence. In order to take your child away from you, for example, The state must prove, yeah, among other things, that you're a danger to the child by clear and convincing evidence. So again, we know that beyond a reasonable doubt means more than clear and convincing evidence. Now, I want to tell you a little example. Now, some people like to skydive. Personally, I don't know why people would want to jump out of a perfectly good plane, but you know, each their own. So, juror number 18. Imagine that you're up in an airplane, the door is flung open. Someone that you don't know just throws a parachute at you and says, "Hey, jump. I checked the parachute, I promise." Is that enough for you to jump? No. What else would you need to be confident that that parachute is in working order in order for you to jump off that plane? Number 6.
They actually work there.
They actually work there. Anyone else? Juror number, what number are you, sir? Can you think of something else that would make you feel more comfortable jumping off that plane?
I can't see him or hear him. I can't see or hear him.
It wasn't for the first time.
It wasn't for the first time. Okay, number 71.
They trade me their parachute.
If they traded you their parachute, that's a good one. Okay, yeah. So the person who handed you the parachute was probably perfectly nice, probably perfectly confident. But imagining that that parachute is in working order is not enough, is it? You want to see that they check the parachute. You want to make sure that all the strings are in working order before you jump off that plane. Now, beyond a reasonable doubt is just like that. It's the burden that you would make the most important decisions of your life. And that's the burden that you have to apply to this criminal case. My goodness. And I want to remind you that that applies to every element. Now, the state put up there the elements of this crime already. You know, they broke it down from robbery to aggravated robbery, asked you questions on what a deadly weapon is. I just want to emphasize a little bit about theft of property, okay? So to commit a theft, a person commits an offense if he unlawfully appropriates property with the intent to deprive the owner of the property. Unlawful appropriation of property means without the owner's effective consent. So let's break this down. Juror number 22. What are some ways you think the state can show that property was taken from a store? Video surveillance. Anyone else have a different answer? Number 12, forensics. Anything else? Number 42?
Witness that saw it happen.
A witness that saw it happen. Sorry, ma'am, what's your number back there in the back? Yes. A witness. Okay, anyone have a different answer? Number 24?
Finding the property in the person's home.
Finding the property in the person's home. Anyone else have a different answer? Number 4?
I was gonna say like possible recovered evidence.
Recovered evidence. That's a good one. Number 5? Confession. A confession. What about receipts? Sometimes they tally up the receipts once they get recovered the property, right? That's something else that can be available. All right, good. Now, what are some ways that you think the state can show beyond a reasonable doubt that someone was placed in fear of imminent bodily injury or death? How can they show that someone was in fear for their life? Number 4.
Signs of jitteriness, being afraid to talk, not being able to look at the person, nervousness, shyness, characteristics of being afraid.
Perfect. Anyone else have a different answer? Number 74?
I was robbed at gunpoint, they shoved a gun in my face.
The totality of the circumstances then? Okay. Now, the last element is that I wanted to cover was pretty self-explanatory, but the state already covered it. It's deadly weapon. Now, I just want to stress, I know I've said it over and over again, but while you're listening to the evidence in this case, please remember that the state must prove all of these elements beyond a reasonable doubt in order for you to find my client guilty of this crime. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about police officers. Now, I have a lot of respect for police officers, but they're human, just like us, right? They make mistakes, you know, they're not perfect. So I want to get your thoughts on this a little bit. Most of the state's witnesses in this case are either police officers or employed by the police department. Jury number, haven't heard from you, sir, number 68. What are your thoughts on that?
I have a lot of respect for police officers. I see a lot of documents online as far as body cam, so I know that there's training issues. They make mistakes. Sometimes their evidence may be logged correctly with errors. Like I said, I have 100% respect for them, but like I said, I hold them to a higher standard, and I know that sometimes it's just not done right from looking at body cam.
Does anyone else have a different opinion than jury number 68? All right. Juror number, sir, number 59. How reliable do you feel a police officer's testimony is?
They make mistakes sometimes, but I feel with the technology that's provided and all that, it's somewhat reliable.
Okay, what about you, sir? Juror number 35?
I would actually hold probably their testimony in more regard just based off experience and circumstances.
Okay, does anyone here agree with juror number, sorry, sir, number 35? So you guys would hold their testimony to a higher standard. So let me get those numbers. Number 3, I'm sorry, number 1, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 19, 20, 21, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 37, 38, 40, 43, 46, 49, 53, 55, 60, 61, 67, 69, 70. All right. So a lot of you guys raised your hand, but the law does say that we are supposed to treat everyone that takes that stand equally, lay witnesses and police officers. You're not supposed to hold people to a higher standard just because of their employment, right? Does anyone here think they can't follow the law of the people that raise their hands? And I mean, are you set on the fact that you hold an officer's testimony more credible than any other witness, the people that raise their hands? Number 15, number 9, number 27, 29, 46. Did I miss anyone? Okay. All right. What if I were 47, 60?
I'm sorry, what do you feel the opposite?
Unbiased eyewitness and arresting an officer would be the unbiased eyewitness.
Okay, that is, well, whoever's picked on this jury, you guys are the triers of fact. You are supposed to assess the credibility of the witnesses that take that stand. The caveat of that is that you are supposed to hold people, at the same standard. Because before I explore that, I'm sorry, what was your number, sir? 47, does anyone here feel the same as number 47? Number 72, 54, number 4? Okay. Well, of the people who said that they would hold a police officer's testimony to a higher standard, let me see just one of those cards. Okay. Who raised their hand? I heard from you. Let's see, 55. Okay. How often do you think police officers testify?
My experience, most of the time when they do, when they're arresting an officer part of the case, they provide some type of testimony.
Okay, so often? Does anyone here disagree with that? What if I were to tell you that not only do they testify often, but they also take courses, training, and testifying how to present a case to a jury? Would that change your opinion on holding them to a higher standard than any other witness who may not have had that experience? Anybody here? Okay. Okay, so, my point in bringing up officers testifying that frequently, that sort of gives them an advantage over lay witnesses. Juror number, who haven't I heard from? Let's see, now, what's your number, 46? Juror number 46, how reliable do you think a police officer's judgments and observations are compared to yours?
More experience of seeing how they're going to.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Are you, not that they're more reliable than I am, but in a case of criminal.
Okay. Who here thinks that they're more reliable than other people? Their judgments and observations. Oh, I'm sorry. Number 9, number 15, number 27, number 30, 32, 33, 35. Sorry, that was your first. 38, 40, 46, 48, 53, 55, 20, 60, 67, 61, 69, 70, 74, and 75. Who here thinks it's possible for a police officer to make a mistake? Okay. It's pretty much all of us, right? They're human after all. Okay, let's see, who haven't I heard from? This right there, jury number in the black. Yes. Sure, number 6030. Let's see. What would you think or feel if you saw a police officer avoid directly answering a question?
If he were avoiding a question, I would think he'd be evidence, maybe something that might support the defense.
Who here agrees with juror number 63? Number 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 23, 24, 25, 29, 30, 31, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 59, 60, 61, 62, 64, 65, 66, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, and 75. How many people here have relatives who work for any law enforcement agencies? All right, number 1, number 15, 18, 33, 36, 39, 42, 45, 49, 53, 54, 55, 57, 59, 60, 68, 72, 69, 74. What was your number, sir?
70.
Who do you know that works for a law enforcement?
My brother is a marshal.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. If you were to acquit my client today, would you be embarrassed to tell your brother? Okay, anyone here who raise their hands? If you were to acquit my client at the end of this trial, would you guys, who of the people who raise their hands would be embarrassed to tell their law enforcement family member or friend that happened? Okay. How many people here have ever worked in retail? 1, 2, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 13, 15, 16, 18, 20, 24, 25, 28, 30, 33, 36, 38, 39, 41, 42, 43, 45, 47, 48, 49, 50, 53, 55, 54, 59, 60, 66, 69, 70, 71, 72, 74. Specifically, of those who raised your hands, has anyone here worked in loss prevention for retail establishments? Okay. I believe there is a juror number 6. Do you work at Circle K now? Okay, I forgot to ask you this earlier, but when I was mentioning the types of evidence that was available for this specific type of crime, lots of people mentioned surveillance video. Is it hard to pull a surveillance video from your establishment? About how long does that process take, you think? Have you ever had to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually around the April 20th. And only good cameras for the
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And the police officers responded and they pulled that surveillance video?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let me switch gears a little bit. Who haven't I heard from? Ma'am, you're right there. What's your number? Juror number 49. What are your thoughts regarding the homeless population here in San Antonio?
I feel like they're often humane in terms of maybe not having the
Okay, so you think we need to have more help for the homeless here in San Antonio? Who here agrees with that? Okay, lots of people. Is there anyone here that disagrees with that? Juror number 6, juror number 24, 33, 53, sorry, 48. Okay. Anybody here ever volunteer for charities or organizations that help the homeless population here? Number 1, 10, 12, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, 35, 36, 44, 45, 46, 47, 49, 50, 53, 54, and 64. Okay. Now, who here is familiar with Haven for Hope? A good bit of us. Let's see. Juror number, you sir right there. What's your number? Can you raise that? Number 33. What are your thoughts on the Haven for Hope organization here in San Antonio? Anyone here who is familiar want to give an opinion? Number 54.
I think Haven for Hope is a good place for people, giving them places to live. I think it should be bigger. I mean, it's not enough. It's not enough.
So you have a pretty positive opinion about what they're doing. Does anyone disagree with number 54? Number 64, what are your thoughts?
So I volunteered at Haven for Hope before, and so in speaking to a lot of the people who have stayed there, they shared with me just like issues about like, yes, it's like a really, in theory, it's a great help for them, but there's a lot of like things that have fallen into the cracks, like crime that happens on site. It's not big enough. It's not really managed to a level to where the people that are staying there necessarily feel safe when they are there.
Okay, so you are for the idea of that type of establishment. Just think it needs to have a few better implications, better.
Right. The people who are telling me that I wish that they would have like a voice to be able to tell the people who actually have a power to fix that, because I was just there to put it there.
Okay. Does anyone disagree with number 64? Who here thinks that organizations like Haven for Hope or other foundations that help homeless population are a waste of taxpayer money? Anyone here? It's okay. All right, good. Now, the last thing I want to do is remind you of this. Now, there are a lot of government employees in the courtroom today. The thing that sets the United States apart from a lot of other countries is that none of them get to decide if my client's guilty or not. And none of them get to decide what his punishment is. You guys get to do that. Whoever sits there in that jury, that's your job. And I guarantee you that regardless of the verdict you give, The judge will sincerely thank you for your service and remind you that the system would not work without you. You have a tremendous responsibility, and you're upholding that responsibility just as vigorously by voting not guilty where there is reasonable doubt, as you are by voting guilty where there is no such doubt. Does anyone disagree with that? Well, before I go on, juror number, right there, number 26, what are your thoughts on what I just said? Does anyone here think that you might be shirking your responsibility by returning a not guilty verdict? Anyone here think you're shirking your responsibility as a juror by returning a not guilty verdict? All right. Now, just a little bit about punishment. I know that the state asked you a question about the purpose of the sentencing phase of trial. So you were asked a question about 1 or 2. 1, if you agree that punishment to punish is the main purpose of that portion of the trial. And they also asked you about rehabilitation and asked which of you guys believe that rehabilitation is an important part of the punishment or sentencing phase of this trial. Can I see your cards raised if you think that rehabilitation is more important than punishment? 1, 2, 7, 12, 13, 18, 23, 22, 27, 31, 34, 37, 44, 43, 47, 48, 50, 51, 54, 58, 57, 64, 68, 70, 71, and 72. Okay. And just because I didn't write this down fast enough, who here could not consider the minimum range of punishment in this case? Because of the type of charge it is, you heard that the range was 5 to 99 years. In some occasions, you can go as low as the 5, that's the low end. Does anyone here think that because it's an aggravated robbery, they would not be able to consider the minimum punishment, the minimum sentence? For 72, 68, 67, 72. Okay. Thank you so much for your time and your candor. Okay. I need to go back really quick because we missed some of the numbers. I believe at the very beginning, I asked you guys if who here would consider my client more guilty than someone just walking down the street because he's sitting here on trial. A lot of you guys raised your numbers. Can I see those numbers again? All right. Well, that's all I have. Thank you so much for paying attention, for being honest, and for participating in this portion of the trial.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to have you do is wait outside in the hallway before everybody runs to the exit. This is what's going to happen. Everyone who is in the jury box, please take all of your personal items with you. Everyone, please leave the expensive cards behind. And if you could wait outside in the hallway, and we will bring you back shortly to let you know who will be on the jury panel. Everyone, please rise. And proceed out. Just wait outside in the hallway.
This is in the back.
All right, everyone, please be seated.
And if you don't fit, just come on in.
Yes, come down to the center aisle. All right, everyone, I want to thank you so much for your service. Again, it is appreciated. What I'm going to tell you, those little sheets you have, please make sure that you keep those with you. You can do one or two things. You can donate the money that you will receive for serving to any charity of your choice. They have different charities that are listed downstairs. Or either you could decide, no, I'm going to keep it, and probably 2 to 3 months from now, you're going to get a surprise in the mail, and you're going to say, oh my gosh, I got some extra money. Let me go have lunch. And you're going to be like, where did this come from? Then you will remember it came from the great time that you spent in the 187 District Court. So what I'm going to do now is call the names of the people who will be on this jury panel. When I call your name, please take a seat in the jury box. Rhonda Restor, juror number 3. Nisha Knight Jackson. Elizabeth Workowicz. Barini Mendoza. Charles Frames. Charles Frames. Charles Frames. All right, thank you. Michelle Seifert. Kayla Gonzalez. Elizabeth Green. Michael Lowenborg. Leslie Valdez. Karen Lang. John Calderon. Rachel Villarreal. Scott Clare. All right, to the rest of you, don't rush out. But you are excused, and thank you so much for coming down with us. The courtroom, I always try to demystify the court and the process to people so that people won't be fearful of the court system. Whenever you want to come down and visit us in the 187 District Court, you're more than welcome to, and you can visit any courtroom. I just encourage people not to go to the CPS court or juvenile court because we try to keep those as confidential as possible. But on the adult side, you're more than welcome to come, and you're more than welcome to come to the 187 District Court. So thank you all so much. Don't run. Oh, thank you. All right, and everyone, if you can be seated, and I'll give you all instructions, okay? All right, first of all, if everyone could silently move out. All right, so I try to make sure that you all are out here before rush hour traffic. So usually we will stop testimony at 4:30. The only exception to that is if, of course, we're in the middle of a witness. Today, you all should thank me because it's almost 5:30, so you definitely avoided rush hour traffic, but we don't keep you here this late normally. Deputy Laura is going to show you where you report tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to start up at 9:30. I have to qualify jurors, and sometimes that takes a little bit longer than anticipated. I'm usually here every morning by 8 or 7:45 to help them qualify jurors, but sometimes the jurors are not sent to me by Zoom until later than that. So I'm going to try to get us started at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. Usually parking is at a premium downtown, as you know. So even though we're starting at 9:30, I would suggest that you be here much earlier than that because there are other jurors. Mr. Frame, were you down the hallway in another courtroom?
I was down there, just had my head out, looked up and no one was sitting around, so I'm sorry.
See, what did I tell everybody about the fourth floor, 187? All right, so make sure, see, he's throwing me off because I was just like, wow, he's down at the other hallway. So Deputy Laura will tell you where to report. So you won't report inside this courtroom, you'll be reporting to the jury room when you show up. We cannot start the trial unless everyone is here. So if someone's not here, then we can't start it. We'll have to wait for that person to appear. Your phone numbers will be taken and you will have a number to contact us in case something turns up. This is not a case, I don't believe this will be in the media or in newspapers or people will talk about it. But if by chance it is in the media or you see something about this on the news or somebody wants to talk to you about it, you need to let them know that you're not allowed to talk about it because you're a juror. You're going to be given name tags that just has 187 District Court juror on it. Please make sure you wear those at all times so people won't be talking around you potentially about the case that's in this court. All the evidence and everything that you need to deliberate on this case will come from inside the court. I will let you know when you're allowed to deliberate. You're not allowed to deliberate or talk about this case amongst yourself. I'll let you know when you can do that. This courtroom, sometimes it is extremely cold, sometimes it's extremely hot. Lately, it's been very hot. That's why you see me not zipping my robe all the way up because it's very hot. I have no control over that. I contacted people to try to have them work on that. It hasn't happened. You're allowed to bring any drinks you want to bring in. Just bring a jacket just in case it gets cold maybe. On your drinks, just make sure there's a cap on it. If anyone ever needs a break, just raise your hand and let us know. I may not be able to see you because I have all the monitors, but either Brenna, who has eyes in the back of her head, or the deputies or defense or state will see you and they'll let me know, Judge, someone needs a break. So don't be embarrassed to let us know if you need a break. Also, if people are testifying and you can't hear them, also raise your hand and let us know if you can't hear. Are there any questions before I turn you over to Deputy Laura? Yes.
Just kind of like an estimate of how many patients, so I can let my work know how long they might pick up the case.
All right. So sometimes juries take a life, jury trials take a life of their own. I'm anticipating, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm anticipating that this trial will be completed this week. All right. So yes. Anything else? All right, then I am going to turn you over to Deputy Laura, and she will show you where you need to be tomorrow. Everyone, please rise.